lunch falling from the sky, driverless subway stations, silent machines taking over. The physical world is being squeezed to death, and this dominance is not cheap. $10 trillion in hidden debt is now ticking down. Will this science fiction race crush America, or will it blow itself up first? At 6 in the evening in New York, an exhausted office worker taps a button to order dinner. The phone screen flashes an absurd truth. That $10 sandwich has just turned into $20 after a few platform fees and a tip. That tiny receipt carries the full weight of an economy under strain. America's paying a brutal price just to keep its physical world running. The service economy is being choked by the very people needed to operate it. Apps like DoorDash are no longer a convenience. They have become a direct tax on the middle class. A report from Knicks United says these added fees can push meal prices up by as much as 80%. Americans are not paying for better food. They are carrying the cost of a bloated system where every layer in the middle is starving for labor. This stagnation reaches deep into billion-dollar projects as well. Subway stations are rusting under absurd labor maintenance costs. Instead of building the future, the US is draining its energy just to keep today's gears turning. While the West struggles to pay delivery workers, the other side of the globe has quietly removed people from the equation. Just look at the skies over Shenzhen. Drone delivery is no longer some futuristic pilot program, it is real infrastructure. Meituan has already completed more than 360,000 drone deliveries right in the middle of major super cities. This is not just innovation, it is a complete rewrite of what labor means. From lunch boxes to medical supplies, everything is routed by algorithm and dropped from the air. No traffic, no tipping, no exhausted drivers complaining about minimum wage. Machines have officially become a new labor class, one that never asks for benefits and never goes on strike. Underground, that replacement is happening on an even larger scale. Transit hubs like Gangsha are moving millions of passengers through fully automated subway lines. Even basic maintenance jobs are increasingly handed off to sensor systems. China is not just building roads and bridges. It is designing a new economic operating system, one that strips out human presence as much as possible in order to push macro efficiency to its absolute limit. A single automated delivery flight in Shenzhen now costs less than $1. The sight of a drone dropping food into the rhythm of a packed city is brutal proof of the system's precision. There is simply no room left for human delay or human waste. And this strategy is not just about showing off domestic tech power. It is one of the sharpest economic weapons ever built to export deflation into the global market. When logistics and operating costs move close to zero, the entire manufacturing supply chain is freed from inflation pressure. Massive factories can receive components, assemble products, and ship them out at speeds no Western rival can match. This is the most ruthless way to crush competitors. The West is still stuck in the trap of expensive labor, scrambling to balance corporate profit with the rising costs of living for workers. China's closed-loop automation machine creates an absolute cost advantage from the very beginning. It turns every US attempt to rebuild domestic manufacturing into an asymmetric war with almost no chance of victory. On the surface, it all looks like the perfect economic miracle of the 21st century. But every miracle comes with a price, because this giant machine does not run on air. Behind the delivery drones and the gleaming transit stations sits a dark financial secret. China's science fiction speed is actually being pumped full of the biggest debt bomb in human history. To understand that, we have to look at how its megacities fund themselves. Local governments in China do not have the traditional power to raise property taxes to cover costs. So instead, they created shadow credit cards. The technical term is local government financing vehicles, or LGFVs. The mechanism is incredibly simple and unbelievably dangerous. A mayor wants to build a new subway station to boost growth numbers. He sets up a state-owned shell company. The government hands that company a piece of empty land with little real value. The company then uses that land as collateral to borrow billions of dollars from state banks and shadow lenders. Cash flows in, concrete gets poured Billion-dollar projects rise almost overnight. On annual growth reports, everything looks beautiful. But the real bill is hidden under the bed. These infrastructure projects almost never generate enough profit to repay the principal, and often not even enough to cover the interests. Data from groups like S&P Global and Stanford FSI suggests this hidden debt pile has swollen to somewhere between $8 trillion and $10 trillion. That is equivalent to the combined GDP of multiple major powers. China's national high-speed rail system alone is carrying debt of roughly 6.2 trillion yuan. In the first 9 months of 2024, that network reported an operating loss of 100 billion yuan. The tired customer in New York may hate that $20 receipt, but at least their city is not hiding trillions in shadow debt underground just to deliver a sandwich a few cents cheaper. Still, it would be a mistake to assume Beijing is ignoring this disaster. It knows the machine is overheating, and it is desperately trying to slam on the brakes. China's national railway company recently reported a profit of 12.77 billion yuan, but it got there through a brutal campaign. It aggressively raised ticket prices by 20% on the busiest routes. It slashed underperforming services. No one is sitting still and waiting for collapse. Suddenly, the grand spectacle feels cold. Giant marble stations blaze with light, yet not a single person walks through them. These monumental projects were built for a future that never arrived. Excess capacity is exposing a fatal weakness. These mega projects were all built on one assumption: that the economy would grow forever and cash flow would never run dry. But once the real estate machine deflates and land values collapse, those shadow credit cards start to fail. If one local government defaults, it could trigger a domino effect across the entire state banking system. And those banks are the same pillars financing the hardware tech ecosystem from Shenzhen to Shanghai. China's technological speed is not a natural miracle. It is a gigantic gamble borrowed from the future. The crack in the glass wall is getting wider. China's bet on the future is now colliding with a physical barrier it cannot reverse: demographic collapse. The entire financial model built around LGFEs and transport infrastructure depends on one core condition. There have to be hundreds of millions of young people constantly moving into the megacities. They are the ones expected to buy expensive new apartments. The cash from land sales then cycles back to pay the debt on subway systems and drone transit hubs. But that stream of people is disappearing at historic speed. As the workforce shrinks, domestic consumption drops hard. Modern high-speed trains cannot pay their own electric bills if the cars are empty. Delivery machines cannot stay profitable if daily orders keep falling. Then the screen goes dark. What happens when millions of these machines begin to rust while local governments are out of cash? Infrastructure maintenance is a monster that devours money. Concrete decays. Control software has to be updated constantly. The batteries in hundreds of thousands of drones have to be replaced. The more automated the system becomes, the more expensive it becomes to keep it stable. Facing the threat of chain reaction collapse, Beijing could no longer stay silent. It was forced to launch a massive rescue package worth 10 trillion yuan. According to international financial reports, this is the largest debt swap program ever attempted. The central government is issuing new low-interest bonds to keep local governments from falling into technical default. But this is not an economic victory. The bailout creates no new surplus value and no new technology for society. It is simply moving the debt bomb from the left pocket to the right pocket. China is using the tax money of future generations to buy a little more time for the present. The US may look at those financial reports and feel a quiet sense of relief. But the wobbling of the East debt machine does not guarantee a Western victory. It only marks the beginning of a far more violent collision. What we are witnessing now is two giant machines charging straight at each other. On one side is the US, with a transparent but expensive financial system. On the other is China, with an unlimited model of hidden debt. The US is trying to reclaim control of the physical world. The CHIPS Act, worth $52.7 billion, is proof of that. America is throwing billions at tech giants to bring hardware manufacturing back home. But the US system runs on the transparency of free markets. Every dollar invested is exposed to shareholder scrutiny and profit pressure. Building an advanced tech factory in Arizona costs roughly 30 to 50% more than it does in Asia. Massive projects keep stalling because of serious engineer shortages. Fierce labor battles and complicated legal barriers freeze progress at every turn. China, by contrast, is not playing by the rules of the free market. Its 10 trillion yuan bailout does not need to generate immediate profit. Beijing has only one goal: keep the automation machine from collapsing. It is using state power to force state-owned banks to absorb the risk. If the CHIPS Act keeps moving slowly and running over budget, and if China manages to restructure this enormous debt mountain, then Beijing could very well complete its grip on the global hardware supply chain within the next 5 years. At that point, the West may design the most advanced artificial intelligence software in the world, but it will not have the physical capacity to build the machines that carry it. But things are changing fast. China's hidden debt system is extremely sensitive to cash flow. If the population ages faster than current forecasts suggest, and if tax revenue dries up before its automation systems can expand worldwide, then a chain default across local governments becomes a very real possibility. If that happens, the entire infrastructure miracle turns into giant piles of rusting metal that no one can afford to maintain. Unless the US accepts a brutal truth, it may have to endure a long period of painful prices. It may have to pay far more in the short term to rebuild its entire manufacturing ecosystem from scratch. And that brings us right back to that $20 receipt in New York. That exhausted customer is not just paying for an overpriced meal. They are absorbing the direct consequences of a weak domestic physical supply chain. If the US fails to rebuild its infrastructure, that brutal bill becomes the new permanent normal. American consumers will keep getting squeezed by a service economy that burns through too much labor. Everything they touch, from dash cams to electronic components, will be priced by a monopoly system half a world away. $1 autonomous delivery will remain a distant fantasy in the West. The US may take pride in the brilliance of its artificial intelligence algorithms, but its people could end up living in rusting cities, paying invisible taxes of inefficiency for every small part of daily life. This war is not confined to macroeconomic forums or political hallways. It hits the wallet of every American the moment they pick up their phone. That customer in New York is still waiting for the food to arrive. Speed always comes with a price. The technological miracle of the next decade will not be decided by who has the smartest artificial intelligence. It will be decided by who can pay the final bill. Is the US willing to pay more to regain control of the physical world, or will it let a financial system standing on the edge of collapse build the future for it?